and coronary artery disease are also coming up. So, and just to remind you, you are on mute, but it's not a big deal. Just *6 and interrupt us, and also type into the Q&A because Michelle's going to be interrupting me if you are putting in questions or comments into the Q&A box. So let's get going. I'll get our slides up here, and we will be good to go. All right. All right, I think we went over that. So what are we going to be talking about today? So I think we have some great content. I'm trying to here we go. Get back on slides. All righty. So we're going to talk about data deadlines for this upcoming year, and of course the awards are going to be coming out soon. I want to give us an update on how we're performing overall as an affiliate. You all should have received a snapshot of your Q1 data. Now, we realize that was an early snapshot, and so it's possible that you didn't have a ton of patients in there, but we'll talk about that. I want to give an update about a recent resuscitation conference we had in Denver, which was wonderful, Strive to Revive, and also give you a chance to ask any coding questions that you might have. And in fact, if you've got a burning coding question, don't have to wait till that section. Just go ahead and type it into the Q&A. Michelle, she's a good multitasker. She'll do fine with that. I did provide a few of the slides on CPR that were given at some recent conferences that I think are just good reminders. And then we definitely want to talk about best practice sharing. We want to find out who is putting your data into Get With The Guidelines. And if you happen to be a hospital who doesn't have Get With The Guidelines, who is entering that data into what kind of system? So that'll be our agenda. If there are other things you wanted to talk about today, again, just type those into the Q&A. So, because we want this call to answer the questions you want. I will mention that on the heart failure call yesterday, we came out of it with a whole list of questions that we didn't answer on the phone, but we're committed to getting all those questions answered and sent back out in writing, so we can do the same thing on this one. All righty, let's talk a little bit about data. For those of you who Get With The Guidelines resuscitation, the great news is that awards are about to come out. We actually will be announcing those and sending out, and remember, these are awards based on 2017 data. So we will get those sent out before the end of May, most likely, and you will be given a link. And on that, what we call this is an ad kit. Now this, I'm going to show you this because sometimes it's a tiny link in the email you get and you may not be taking advantage of it. Now this happens to be a heart failure link, but it will be just like this for resuscitation awards. So you get a link and it sends you to a page similar to this. I will tell you right away when you get your award email, forward that to your marketing department. And for those of you who are not being recognized this year, it'll be a similar process next year, so this is encouragement to go ahead and get recognition. And remember, there is such a thing as a bronze recognition where you meet the criteria for 3 months. If you've never been recognized by us and you meet the criteria for 90 days, you also can be recognized as a bronze. So anyway, on this page, you will have the promotional guidelines, and it is important for your marketing folks and for you to read those guidelines. That'll tell you how you can use the icons, so forth. Now, we do provide the icons. These are 3 links, so when you click on that, you will get the icon that's appropriate to your award, and you'll get it in a JPEG, and that's like it's a lower quality. A PNG, which is like one to put on the internet, like if you want to put it somewhere for a web site, and the EPS is a very high-res version that you won't be able to open, but if you send that file to your marketing folks, they can use that. Also on here is a news release. The news release will be specific. It's in Word so that you can edit it or your marketing PR folks can edit it. It is all ready to go in terms of being able to, I'll get this to come up here. Here we go. It's not up yet, so, well, we should be able to have it here. Hang on a second. I will get it to come up. Anyway, you put in you'll want to have your, there we go. I apologize, my introduction was on there. All right, we're back. It's ready to put your hospital name. It's ready to put your PR person's name, the date that you're sending this out. It has a quote in there. It's here in red, but if I always encourage you to put in a quote from somebody at your hospital. So there's quotes down below here. There will also be ideas for Twitter and for Facebook. So we actually make it super simple to promote your award. All right, going back where we were. Okay. Also on there, in that promotional document will be ways to promote it. I have seen people promote their award on a building size flyer that went from the top of the building down 5 or 6 stories. We have provided some examples. You can actually use these to just put your logo at the bottom. And of course, these will be pertinent to resuscitation. These are just examples for you. There's also one you can use on the internet. That's a digital advertisement. And then actually we've written a radio ad for you, which has been timed properly to do a radio spot, I believe a 30-second spot. So again, these are things that your marketing folks can help you with. But I encourage you that when you do get your recognition, that don't just celebrate yourself. Be sure and go back and get help and get the word out. Put it on your website. There's a widget there to put on your, you can put it on your signature for your email. So really promote your award. Also, your director is willing to come and present your award at a leadership meeting, at a board meeting, at an all-employee meeting, town halls. We've given these awards at Go Red events and walks and all sorts of health fairs. So when you get your recognition, let's get the word out. And then also then in July, for those who get gold and silver, you will be in the American Heart Association's ad in U.S. News and World Report, and I'll just give you an idea how that looked last year. I cannot guarantee this is how it looks this year. These are marketing events, and so people do these different each year. But last year, this is how it looked online. Of course, it was in a print edition, and online it looked like this, and this is actually how the print looked. And so all of the different awards, stroke, heart failure, resuscitation, all of them are listed by city, by state. So that is U.S. News and World Report. Any questions on the line about recognition? Feel free, go ahead and type those in. Anything else, or anyone else decided to put their name on there, Michelle?
No, not yet, but we do have the QR if you guys just want to type it in.
Great. Everybody who's on the call, just first name in your hospital, or just hop in, *6.
Hi, Sheree. This is Katie. I was wondering, could you tell us, and if you've said it already, I apologize, but I heard that you're going to talk a little bit about a Strive to Revive conference. Could you just tell us really quickly, is that something that is offered all over our affiliate, or something that we could have in our area, and how would that work?
Yeah, I'll be glad to, and I'll kind of give you the examples that are out there, but this is only the 3rd Strive to Revive conference in the country that we had in Denver. So this is like a brand new concept. So in fact, kind of think about that as I show you who spoke and what was going on there. Think about where it would be appropriate. It's really appropriate for a regional area. We talked about survival, we talked about CPR, we talked about prognostication, many things like that. So be thinking about if your area would be appropriate for that. We'd like it to be multiple hospitals represented. So a region, all the hospitals might come together to do that. So we'll definitely talk more about that. But think about if your area is appropriate and type in that section. Data deadlines of June. I do want to mention that June 7th is the deadline to put in an abstract for the, and you know that the scientific sessions and resuscitation sessions are at the same time. I think this is in Chicago in November, but the last day to submit an abstract is June 7th. I am available, your directors are available. If you are working, it doesn't have to be Get With the Guidelines specific, but if you have been working on a research project, something that would be pertinent either to nursing staff or to staff as a whole related to in-hospital resuscitation, or maybe working on system resuscitation in cooperation with your pre-hospital folks, we'll be glad to work with you to get an abstract put in before the June 7th deadline. So be thinking about what you could present from your hospital or your region. Again, I mentioned that in July, U.S. News and World Report, gold and silver, you're going to get snapshots on Q2, Q3. You can see how those lay out here on the timeline. These slides will be sent to you, so you can use this as a outline of when you need to have stuff done. And then scientific sessions, that's where the gold and silver hospitals will be recognized. I had heard that it's possible we might recognize at another event. As soon as I know that, I will let everyone know. And then, of course, we're heading toward completing all of 2018 data abstraction by February 28th of 19. Any questions on data deadlines? Wonderful. Well, I thought you might be interested, as you know, and as you're working very diligently on your resuscitation achievement measures, and these are our Class 1 recommendations. This is our performance in the Southwest affiliate, and I just reminded you there to the right side of the screen who is in the Southwest affiliate and the states that are there. And as you can see, we're still a little bit behind the national average. This is Q1. Now, we have to take this with a grain of salt because sometimes as we're finishing up our previous year abstraction for recognition, for submission, for quality reporting for your organization, you may not be up to date on Q1, but I actually ran this report yesterday, so any data that's in Q1 is reflected in this report. So we still are dragging behind a little bit on the time to shock for those shockable rhythms in less than 2 minutes. And just a reminder, the less than 2 minutes means the minute time starts with 2, so that goes clear up to 2:59. If you put in, if it was 2 minutes and 58 seconds, to get the shock, that meets the criteria, and your patient management tool will recognize it that way. So you can see we're behind a bit on that, definitely getting our epi in time, across the country doing well, making sure those patients are witnessed or monitored, and then the new measure, and just a huge, huge reminder. Last year on 2017 data, you could use the historical measure, which was that you only had to do airway confirmation if you had been the one who did the intubation. That is no longer this guideline. No matter when that patient was intubated, when they come to you for the code, you need to, by some mechanical method, make sure you have a good airway. This makes perfect sense, of course, because if you don't have good oxygen exchange, all of the other things that you're doing are not beneficial. So a reminder that no matter when that patient was intubated, you have to confirm that you have good oxygen exchange there. Any questions on these? What are things that you're trying as it relates to making a difference in the time to shock? Have you made any adjustments with your code teams, with using AEDs perhaps in the auto zone so that the floor nurse can do the shock before the code team arrives? What have you done out there? Anyone? Feel free to *6 and tell us how you're working on this, or why it's difficult or why you're not being successful. We want to be open here. *6 or type in the Q&A. All right, well, we'll be interested. We do know that the majority, and this started in the pediatric world, that the way that they were able to get the shock and the shockable rhythms in a timely manner was because they had AED available and as part of their physician orders that could be done. Once it was identified that they could use the AED so that the shock could be administered in a very quick manner, even while the code team was being assembled. Also, it's really a machine issue on the airway confirmation. If you can have the capnography available, then you're going to be doing that at all times throughout the code. That will give you an idea if something's dislodged, if something happened with the endotracheal tube. Any comments? But we do need to continue to work on these elements. Now, I do want to talk about Strive to Revive. Very exciting conference, and thanks, Katie, for bringing that up, because I want you to be thinking what areas of our affiliate might be appropriate for these as we plan for next year. Certainly, these had continuing medical education. We had 7.5 credits for nurses, physicians, PAs, NPs, as well as EMS. As you can see, we were able to really cover a broad spectrum, everything from introduction to resuscitation, which was an excellent presentation by Dr. Camilla Sasson, and also an AHA colleague looking at CPR. I don't know if you're aware that the chances of you getting CPR are highly dependent upon the geography of your city or your state. It's much less likely that you're going to receive CPR in any of the urban core, low socioeconomic areas of our country, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be able to know that we're going to have bystander CPR wherever. Dr. Chan was there on risk-adjusted survival to discharge, as well as looking at how to use data, and that's why Get With the Guidelines resuscitation is so important. You have to keep this data anyway. You might as well contribute to national research. And as Tanya pointed out to us, this is an area where our Class 1 recommendations are not based on randomized trials, because you really can't do that in resuscitation. You can't say, oh, you're going to be shocked and you're in the group that's not being shocked. So we learned about that. Trudy from UC Health, who is an excellent resource, and one of your colleagues in Get With the Guidelines resuscitation talked about really running a code blue team. So I encourage you, if you don't know Trudy, to reach out to her. First, listen to her presentation. Floyd Salazar, amazing presentation about out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And for those of us in the in-hospital setting, the folks in the EMS world are evaluating every single code, and they are looking at the quality of CPR every compression out in the field in many places, and they're really cutting edge. We need to follow their lead. A great session on a pediatric resuscitation. I think the biggest thing is children and babies are not just small adults. Resuscitation is a different world on that. Dr. Perman, excellent presentation on, do we want to save people, and how do we think that we want to know, is their brain going to be good? We want to make sure we're making great decisions about when to withdraw resuscitation care. And it's surprising. It is surprising. I'm going to encourage you to listen to that presentation. I talked about CPR and how that is so pertinent. And then we had an absolutely amazing survivor who's also on the recordings, who went to his car dealership and collapsed, and the one person who knew CPR there gave it to him. And he survived and to tell his story. And then we learned about the specific rural challenges in a huge, absolutely huge territory around Greeley, Colorado, where the EMS there is often more than 30 minutes away from where they're being deployed. So AEDs and bystander CPR are really crucial. So Strive to Revive, I'm excited to tell you that we recorded the whole thing. We videotaped it all. And so we will, when we send out our slides, be able to tell you where to find those recordings. The reason we have delayed is because we are also submitting for continuing education online, so that you can watch them, answer a few questions, and be eligible for the continuing education related to those. So this is the first time we've done that. I'm very excited because there are so few resuscitation continuing education opportunities. So I am going to highly encourage all of you to do that. Now, what questions do you have, or if there are folks on the line who attended, *6 or type in questions and comments on Strive to Revive. We had one in Dallas also, so it's possible somebody on the line attended our Dallas Strive to Revive in September of last year. So feel free to pipe up or talk about where might be a good area to have this in the future. Well, I will get you the info. You're going to love it. And if you don't listen to anything except the survivor, I know you will be encouraged. He was excellent. All righty, let's take a few minutes and talk about coding instructions, abstraction questions. You can type it in or *6. And once you're off mute, don't worry, you can go right back on by *6ing again. So what questions are out there related to how you are coding? I just want to make sure you have this opportunity. All right, there's no deadline on this, so if you come up with one, just type it in and we'll get to it. Or even at the end, we'll make sure that all questions that come in are answered when we send out the slides. All righty. I thought I might go ahead, before we do this, let's go ahead and hop ahead, make you dizzy. Would you be willing, those of you online, and I know some of you are doing your own abstraction, but who in the hospital keeps, oh, I have a typo there, sorry, keeps your code blue data? Who is the overseer? Who puts it in? And then where is it managed? Is it in your quality department, and is it in cardiovascular? Where is that, how is that managed at your hospital? And like I said, you can type this in if you want. Go ahead and give us that info. *6 to talk to us, or type it in. As I've talked to different hospitals, I've seen the code blue data kept from everyone from the emergency department manager being in charge of it to ICUs kind of coordinating it for the whole hospital. I've even seen where it was a collaboration with security putting the data in and then the clinical team using it. Do we have some feedback there, Michelle, or no?
No feedback. I think it's too early in the morning for some people.
Everybody get up and get yourself some coffee. I'll circle back to this.
Actually,
I'm going to...
So Samantha says her quality and performance improvement.
Okay, so it is in the performance improvement. That's a great place for it. I would think it was always there, but I've seen that that is not the case. And of course, this is pertinent for small hospitals too, and so they may not have an official quality department. No matter what size of hospital you are, you should be really looking at your codes. Even if that's only one code a month or one code a quarter, those codes need to be evaluated and looked at very closely. Well, as those are coming in, I thought I would give a little presentation about the CPR element that we did at Strive to Revive. This is just a little sub-hair, but I think we forget sometimes how important high-quality CPR is. So I wanted to just share a little bit about a part of our presentation from there. So as you know, CPR is really inherently inefficient. If you do it absolutely perfectly, and I mean every single compression in the proper, 50 millimeters down, every single ventilation in the appropriate volume, then it's only 10 to 30% of normal blood flow to the heart and 30 to 40% of normal blood flow to the brain. So the fact that this is such an inefficient process is really highlights the need for us to be properly trained. In fact, I'm just having a heck of a time here. I think it just blocked, it went down to the next line, but poor quality CPR can be considered a preventable harm. And I don't think we really think about CPR that way, that we could actually be causing harm in CPR. So AHA has a consensus statement. We have a consensus statement on everything, but we have a consensus statement on high-quality CPR. And I don't know if you're aware that what we're really trying to look at when we do CPR is something called coronary perfusion pressure, CPP. And that pressure is the difference between the aortic diastolic and the right atrial diastolic pressure when it's at relaxation. So that sounds great. Maximizing CPP is the goal, but guess what? It really can't be measured. Well, it can, but we can't measure it during each code. So we have to look at the elements that drive it. And these are the 5 areas of emphasis that are also in our consensus statement. So the chest compression fraction, and that's how much of the time are you actually on the chest. You'll see this called CCF. It should be over 80%. The chest compression rate, which should be 100 to 120 compressions per minute, but less than 150, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a second. Chest compression depth, which is greater than 50 millimeters, and that's 2 inches in adults. And you know, because children and infants are a wide variety of what's called depth from back to front, you always use a concept of 1/3 the body depth in children and infants. Another important element is the chest recoil, and that's allowing the chest to come completely up. And all of our documentation shows us that the majority of rescuers lean, so on the body. And then ventilation, no more than 12 per minute with minimal chest rise. So let's look at a few of these areas. This study by Steele is about the optimal chest compression. And this was a great big study that looked at cardiac arrest patients, and it is, you can see very clearly on the left side, that's the probability of survival. And then you have the depth. So you can see that when you're giving just a little 20 millimeter compression versus when we get at the 50, right there, that red line in the middle, you can see that it is crucial on survival that we have adequate compression. Also, the compression is on the right-hand table. This is the compression depth. So you can see when it's less than 26, I am on the right-hand table. Less than 26, you have 50%. As you're going up, you can see that once you get a greater than 50, that you're nearing the ability to get ROSC is much higher. The success of your shock much higher. Now, this other element, which is pre-shock pause, this is when you're having a shockable rhythm. So you're doing your compressions, and then how much time are you waiting? And remember, we used to have this thing, stop CPR for, and there would be any number of seconds of delay. So if it is less than 10 seconds, which still is super long, by the way, the chance of your shock being successful and getting ROSC is 94%. If you are stopping CPR for any reason, 10 to 20 seconds, it plummets to 72%, 20 to 30 seconds, 60%, and I don't know why we'd have a 30-second delay in compressions, but if you do, you can see that the chance of attaining ROSC is very, very diminished. So we know high-quality CPR is difficult, but the rate of compression also matters. And when the compressions are too slow, and this happens to be the chance of getting return of spontaneous circulation is reduced to 42% if they're too slow. But if the compressions are at least 100 per minute, you have a 72%. So when we say that staying alive song, that 100 beats a minute, it is really crucial. You know, however, and there was a study actually came out of Dallas, and they looked at pre-hospital CPR in the EMS agencies that serve the region, and the average compression rate there was 138, and it was not unusual to see compression rates of 170. So you'll note that when American Heart Association came out with the recommendations of 100, they did not put a top limit on it, because in animal studies, it indicated that a top limit wasn't necessary. We were just say, pump as, compress as fast as you can. Well, we've now shown that that is not correct, that there's a sweet spot, 100 to 120, and that after 150, you actually have lower survival. So this really emphasizes the need for a metronome, both in the pre-hospital and hospital setting, something to indicate. It also indicates the need to have perhaps someone who is leading CPR, who is giving strong feedback to those giving CPR, and it also is changing out the CPR providers regularly when the CPR is not the highest quality, so you can go back and forth. This is interesting. How often you get to respond to a cardiac arrest makes a difference. In this article, a lot of smaller places, and this isn't just in out of hospital, but there's a lot of parts of the hospital where while you are trained in CPR, you do not get to give CPR on an often. You're not on the code team. You're not one who will be giving the compressions. You're in a unit that has younger and healthier people, so you may not have that opportunity. Paramedics who didn't have the opportunity to actually perform resuscitation did worse. So that certainly indicates we need to practice, do mock codes, that kind of thing. We talked about CCF, that it needs to be more than 80%, and this is how much of the time are you actually on the chest, and this is a pre-hospital study, and so you can see that if you are not on that chest greater than 80%, the chance, even in the pre-hospital setting, is diminished, your chances of getting a return of spontaneous circulation. And what about ventilation? I was originally really shocked about this chart, that ventilation is normally over ventilation, and that is not unusual. You'll see there on the bottom axis to see 30 ventilations per minute, and that means has a survival of 13%, just way over ventilating our patients. If given the proper number of ventilations, which should be no more than 12, and they'll say 10 to 12, the survival rate is 86%. So again, perfect CPR. It's not just compressions. It's not just ventilations. It's also how much time are you spending on the chest? Are you taking any breaks in between? And are you getting a proper depth and rate? So this is not an easy element. So as you look at that, I hope that the majority of you are beginning to think about how you can evaluate your CPR. In the pre-hospital setting, the majority of them are using their EKG machine. It's providing feedback for their CPR. And I believe there is going to be a trend to move toward that in the in-hospital world too, but that we have not made that jump. Are any of you measuring your CPR quality, not just visualizing it, but actually using your equipment to look at CPR during codes? Anyone doing that? Type in or *6.
Cherie, Jackie actually wrote in, we're in the process of getting software set up to allow real-time evaluation. I think Cherie might have dropped off the call a little bit. We're going to go ahead. And just to remind you guys, I will be posting all of these slides. We'll have all the information and links available, and that should be mailed out to you between 1 and 2 weeks. I think Cherie might be online.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. It's disconnecting me every day at the same point.
Anyway, oh, you're fine. Jackie did actually write in that we are in the process of getting software set up to allow for real-time evaluation.
Oh, that is great. I tell you what, Floyd Salazar, and I encourage you to listen to his presentation, the way that our pre-hospital folks are looking at their CPR, meeting with the paramedics, having regular meetings, looking at the outcomes. I know that they're doing this in Fort Worth. I know they're doing it in different parts of our affiliate, and it is really impressive. And even when there's not successful outcomes, I think, you know, sometimes all you have is that they didn't survive. Well, you still need to have the feedback that you did your very best, that when you gave this CPR, it was the best CPR you could give. And so I think that we really need to move that direction. Any other comments as it relates to CPR quality?
Yes, so Samantha from Houston Methodist San Jacinto, we have the capacity with our defibrillators but have not optimized the process yet. We have utilized capnography to monitor quality as well.
Oh, great, because the capnography, that's going to give you all your oxygen flow, so that is fabulous. As you do that, I'd be interested in seeing how you get that set up. I definitely think this is something we're all going to be doing. This also would be a great area of research. If not this year, obviously we're awful close, but if you were to do this, we should really collect some good data pre and post about survival, et cetera, because that would be an excellent way. While our pre-hospital partners are doing a good job with this, we're not necessarily doing as well in the hospital world. Any other comments sent in, Michelle?
Those were our two, but thank you so much for participating.
Yes, I do appreciate that, and for everyone who is participating, we do have a little gift we're going to send out. So, yes, I'm bribing you, but I appreciate people, because really this is how it becomes helpful. If we know that Houston Methodist Sanjac is looking at this, then we know that other folks can reach out to them. We can get more information on how that goes once it's set up. We can really benefit from knowing what everyone is doing. Let's see, did anybody else respond to who's keeping their data? Type that in if you're able to, those on the phone, like who's keeping your Code Blue data. All right. Let's see, I'm trying to change my slide. That's why I've got you paused. All right. All right, well, if there's no other comments, I'm going to go ahead and remind the whole group about accessing the Strive to Revive recordings. We will send out the link to those. If you watch them now, when the official CE comes out, you'll easily be able to answer the questions. So just take a few notes during each presentation. As you know, when we have an enduring presentation, we do have to have post-event questions. So I created some questions that are associated with that. So when that is available, I will let this group know right away. Anyone interested in thinking about their region as a place that would be appropriate for a resuscitation conference? Houston folks, what do you think? And I even think about, I think about Wyoming and that northern part of Colorado, if there was some potential, or maybe even to work with the other affiliate that has that side of Nebraska. That might be kind of, doing a rural look might be a good place to do. Any comments? Star 6? All right. Well, anything that comes in, if you think of it, don't hesitate. I think that Michelle, did you talk a little bit about our, oops, I'm at the wrong end of my slides here. Sorry, guys, I'm probably making you dizzy. Did you have a chance to talk about this while I was off?
No, I did not.
Okay. This was on at the beginning. I want to throw this out to all of you is because we have put together a little free consulting project where we have a SurveyMonkey that is like a survey, kind of real broad, this isn't real deep, but a broad look at your Code Blue team, who's on it, how you're managing your data, who's your champion, where's your data flowing up, and so you'd fill out a little readiness assessment. Then we're going to do a 1 hour, just on the phone, unless it happens to be where I'm already, but I'm going to work with your code team or whatever team you consider your resuscitation leadership team, asking some questions, getting a little more information, and then based on the literature and based on what we see across the country in our highest performing hospitals, we'll provide a follow-up report. So if any of you are interested in doing this, whether or not you're a Get With the Guidelines resuscitation customer, maybe you're a big hospital and you have some small hospital partners who don't have a formal process, this will be a great thing to recommend to them. Anyway, you can just email me, my email's there, or swaquality@heart.org and tell us you're interested. You can forward these slides to someone because we're really, the important thing is that you know that we have a low overall cardiac survival rate in hospital. You know, a great performance would be 31%. The average is probably more like 20-some% when you think about survival from cardiac arrest in the hospital. We can do better than that, and I think it's going to take getting everyone involved, not just big hospitals, but also smaller hospitals, because no matter if you're a 10-bed hospital like my home hospital, Mineola District Hospital in Mineola, Kansas, or a huge academic medical center, we need to be doing our very best when those codes occur. And so this is a great opportunity, no cost to the hospital, to just take a peek at the processes that you're using currently and get some feedback. And as I said, no charge to you, and we'll do it virtually. There's not going to be any PHI, so we don't need to have any elaborate contracts or anything like that. We're going to be doing, it's a process evaluation, not being exposed to any patient information. So let me know. All right, well, we're a little bit early, but I want to make sure if there's any questions, comments, that you get a chance to do that before I give you a few minutes back, but I am happy to answer anything you have.
Cheryl from Houston did say that she would love to have a start to revise.
I think Houston is a great area. I tell you, I think we have a lot of potential, and we have a lot of differing areas where there's big areas to cover. There's all sorts of industries to cover when we think about the EMS side. Some of our industry has their own pre-hospital, which is another interesting element. So I agree that Houston would be an excellent area to do that. So I've put you down, Cheryl, on a planning committee if we get to move forward with that. So she won't type anything in now. Other comments or thoughts or questions? Well, there's not a deadline on your questions, so you can always talk to your own quality improvement director. Wyoming, we've got Ben Leonard. I heard Houston, so that's Allison Capetillo. I don't know who else is on, but you can always go to your own quality improvement director. We always have the SWA quality. This just goes to a support person who helps us. So if you've forgotten who to go with, it, SWA stands for the Southwest Affiliate. That's who, how we're divided. And then this is my email, so don't ever hesitate to give me a buzz on anything, any questions that you have. So one more quick check, and I'll have Michelle close us out. Thanks for joining us today. Michelle?
Great. I want to thank everybody once again for joining. Our next quality exchange will be after you receive your quality reports, and those should be on your calendar. If you need any further assistance determining who your director is, feel free to contact us. And if there's no more questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much.